All right, Jason Rona back here in the JConcepts garage. We're here again with AJ Marasco. Today we're talking on the vlog here about a little more RC drag racing. And AJ, we're out at in Orlando Speed World. Had a race going on out there, and tell us a little bit about how you found out about the race and getting out there in Orlando doing some drag racing.
Yeah, I saw it on the internet a couple weeks ago, right after RCDRL race, and it was like a test and tune / 4-class race going on. So I was like, all right, it'd be kind of cool to go check it out. Gotta get a little test and tune session going, and then I can enter the run too. So I messaged the guy, Jose King, and he's like, yeah, we have like a 4-class race going. So I'm like, all right, cool. And then went out there. Pretty nice facility. It's on the drift pad. So they have nice wall set up. They even had a scoreboard at the end, which I thought was really neat. And it's an overall good experience. Nice place, a lot of room for parking, a lot of shutdown. So overall, I think it was pretty fun to go check out and just experience a little bit different scenery.
Yeah, I mean, we went down to the Super Cup Championship Series. We were down in Coral Springs. You've been there a bunch. We went down there, and we were talking before, and you said, I'm going to get your car ready, my car ready to go, and to come out there and drive a little bit. So you finished up my car, got the electronics in it. We had our photo body, of course, that we decided to bash up here a little bit, but went ahead and got the car ready, and I met you out there, and we did a little bit of test and tune. Like you mentioned that as the day starts, they go with test and tune so that anybody can just run. Mm-hmm. And what I noticed is they have 4 lanes, and there's a prepped lane in each side, which is for some of the other classes. Mm-hmm. But then like the classes that we were running, like the Pro, what do they call them, Pro 2 Outlaw, or
like Pro 2 Outlaw and like Outlaw 4 Drive or something like that.
Yeah. So we ran in the no prep lane, and that was actually kind of a cool way of doing it. And I thought it was really neat how even on the prep side, how they would actually prep the surface. They had a little ATV they'd turn on and run through. So mm-hmm. I thought they did a really cool job of doing the prep side. Of course, we were running on the no prep side of things, and kind of had a lot of time to do test and tune, which I thought was really kind of fun and unique for everybody that came, because you just stand in line, you get up there, and you run your car, and they give you a time, get your slip, and see how you're performing. And so we were kind of doing that. Did you make any changes along the way to the different track like you ran before, or what would you do to prepare?
A lot of you do a lot of changes actually, because it's a lot with the suspension. Figuring out, make sure your car is not going left or right. And my car at the other race had a trouble going left, so I put more preload on the left side, and this time it was going right. So I was like kind of fighting, just doing the opposite way, just putting more preload. And a lot of it is in the ESC. Figuring out that curve on that bottom end, your first 60 feet is the biggest thing you will do with these cars, and because it will unload the tire real fast. And just finding that, just more of a trial and error, finding that fine tune adjustment and just saving that tune up is going to be the biggest key. And that's going to be the biggest thing I think going from track to track is going to be, and a little bit of slipper actually too.
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the first things you did with my car. Is I ran a couple times, I was upside down, going left, going right, but you did some slipper tuning. We got out there, ran a couple decent straight passes, and we had a little bit of success. Still a lot to work on, to get obviously a little bit closer to where you're running. But it was a fun experience, and we had a lot of other guys come join us out there too. We had guys from the off-road scene, guys we met before. We had obviously we got Billy Bruce came out. It was the first time I seen him run. I know he said he went out before, but he had his 99 Ford truck body on there. It actually looked really cool. It did. Really nice and tucked in and clean on the sides. And I thought Billy's truck looked really neat. And we had a nice little pit area we were in with the guys. And I'll talk a little bit about the guys that were kind of pitting around us and how they were doing.
I met those guys, Larry Hutchinson, John Joyner Jr., and his son. Super cool dudes. I met them at RCDRL, and we've been chatting online, just in Messenger, and just talking a little bit. And they seem really nice, down-to-earth dudes. And I was like, hey, we should probably pit together this weekend. And we set up our tents together. And they were really nice to work with. They were actually sharing information. I'd share information. It was actually a really nice group of guys to actually run with, and we can gain knowledge off of, and you'd be faster. So that was really neat to have that, and kind of have some friends in the drag racing scene doing this. So I'm not just by myself out there. So it's kind of cool.
And I saw Larry was actually using the same body that I'm using, which is the Bel Air. He had his painted. He had like a purple and white scheme, but he really liked that body. I watched him make a lot of nice clean runs the whole day, and then the joiners, they were making some pretty good passes, right?
Yeah, he's got the S10 body, and he seems to really like that body a lot. They've been running that body, I think, for quite some time now. I think I was talking to him about that. He says he really likes the Bel Air and the S10. He's been going back and forth with.
So, after this test and tune was over, we started transitioning. They kind of got the guys signed up for racing, and talk to us about how they ran the racing format and how'd it go.
This one's more of like kind of an outlaw race, so like sort of like a street car. There was no typical qualifying than your brackets. It was more of chip draws. So everyone entered. So it was like 21 guys, and then we'd draw chips out of a hat. So whoever had 1 and 1. So 1 and 1 would go up against each other. Red was right lane, blue was left lane. So that's how they were doing it, 2 and 2, and then 3 and 3. And then if you had a green chip, because there was an odd number of cars, you'd hit the buy run. So that's how they kind of did this race. So it's somewhat like first round, second round, but just doing chip draws. You're not racing for lane choice either. So it's more of the luck of the draw.
So you made it through the rounds, and you were kind of giving us some updates, throughout the day, what was going on, and you got into the finals. You end up racing a buddy of yours, and talk to us about how he was doing out there, and you guys kind of pairing off in the finals.
It was he kind of got the luck of the draw. He got 2 buy runs. I was like, I was kind of giving him a little hard time there, and I had to race my way through. It's definitely not easy racing your way through because a little more pressure because you don't have a buy run. So, but then again, I have more runs to kind of test some stuff and show if I'm good enough to be that guy to win. And once I made it past the semis and going in the final, I knew who I had, and I was like, this is kind of funny because we always test together. He was 5 minutes from my house, so he's basically my neighbor. And it was just going to be a fun race and just a good time to win some money and race your buddy in the final, which is really cool to do. And, we both wound up going home with some cash.
Yeah. I mean, personally, all the racing I've ever done, I've maybe ran 1 or 2 RC Pro races back in the day that had sort of a payout, but really it's always been based off contingency from a manufacturer or something like that. But in this situation, it's a little different, and I see it's a little more common around the country, people doing these payday type events, and it seems there's like a draw to it, but there's always a little hesitation too, but I think it looked like it was a successful day for the most part.
Yeah, I would just try to do my thing and just keep calm and don't let the money get to me, and just have a good time and hang out with Larry and John and those guys, and just overall it just made it a fun, awesome day, even though it was pretty hot out. That's what made it, I think, a little bit nicer, just having those guys around and just a good environment to be.
So the car, you talked about earlier, you made a couple changes just based off of the lane and stuff like that, but as far as the tire combination, wheel combination, did you change anything from the RC DRL race, or are you pretty much running the same setup there?
Same setup of tires, like just gold hotties all the way around, tactic wheels, nothing done to the inserts, just do my normal carpet burnouts, and it's really about it. I don't try to do any of this tire bands or anything like that. The wear looks awesome. There's no need to change it. Everything's been working for me. I just keep that the same and just work on my tune-up in the ESC, and I think that's going to be the key to this racing.
So we're kind of showing both cars here today, and there's a little bit more what they look like on the track as opposed to the shiny photo ones we put in the studio. But this is the reality of when you're running these things: is you're upside down, you're hitting the walls, you're hitting the boards. You try to run your cleanest when it matters, but you're upside down and you crash in this, and you have to put up with it, and you have to understand that that's kind of a part of the game, and the durability of the bodies and everything plays a factor when you're beating them up like this, right?
Yeah, there's not going to be that perfect body because your car, when you first get there, it's never going to go straight. It's always going to be a fine tune. So there's always going to be something to go wrong. It's either going to wheelie down track or make a hard right turn or a left turn, and it's going to do that. So there's no way of really having a nice body unless you're just for pictures.
Yeah. All right, well, good, and thanks, AJ, and congrats on the nice win, collecting a little bit of cash. And we're going to kind of transition, talk a little bit about the Super Cup Championship Series. We're going to get Lee in here, talk to him a little bit about it. But thanks again, and we'll see you at the next race.
Thank you.
All right, Lee, we're back here in the JConcepts garage. We're chatting now about the Super Cup event that we did down in Coral Springs. We're talking to AJ a little bit about the drag racing event. But before that, we did the Super Cup. We did the off-road race down at the track that's been there, I don't know, over 20 years. And you've been running the Super Cup all season. You got a bunch of wins under your belt, as does Julian and a lot of the other drivers. But you took a double win down at Coral Springs, and the cars were looking really good. But it didn't come easy down there, did it?
No, it was definitely a little tough. I mean, the track conditions were, I think, something that we haven't ran on in a while, I would say. But nonetheless, it was an absolute blast, and the competition was, stiff as always with you, Paul, and Julian out there, and definitely had to work for it, for sure.
So, we got there, we got some practice. Usually what we do is we get there like on Friday, we get a little practice going, and, the track's usually, depending on the weather, it can be really dry out there like it was. Cars were loose. It was hard to keep them going there in practice, just with it being so dry and dusty. But did you do anything specific on your setup on the two-wheel to get you around when the track was loose?
Not really. I came there with like my standard outdoor setup that I would pretty much go to any outdoor track here in Florida, and I think it was pretty dialed. I mean, I would say I had a pretty good car leading into the races. So yeah, it was just my standard setup, actually kind of similar to what I run at my track, SS, just with some minor adjustments to the looser outdoor surface. But other than that, it was pretty basic.
So what would you say would be more specific to running outdoors on the setup versus what you'd run on your track, which is a little more high bite? We run a bar tire there. What would you say would be more specific to running the outdoor?
Well, just lighter oil, coming from like my track to, Coral Springs, since we were there this weekend, use that as a reference. But lighter oil, more tow, a little bit higher ride height. And that would be like the top three things, most important: lighter shock oil, more tow, and raise the ride height. So,
and then also, one of the biggest difference, of course, we go to like the Sprinter style tire. And we kind of stuck with that all weekend. I only used one set on my two-wheel, one set on my four-wheel. Is that kind of what you went with on the Sprinters?
Yeah, I ran Sprinters on full and two-wheel, and they were awesome. I don't think we could have had a better tire. I think that weekend they lasted pretty much all day, and they just provided great speed and consistent runs throughout the event.
We got a little bit of video showing us, doing some qualifying, but we went through a little bit of weather. Lots of times we have that down there in Coral Springs where in this time it rained at the beginning of the day. So we started, the track was wet from the rain, dried out, got a little bit of rain again. Then we get into the mains and we make it through the day. But in that first, qualifier when the track was, kind of on the wet side, explain how you're kind of attacking what you do, attacking the track, and how the style you'd use on that.
Yeah, I mean, when we went out there, it was obviously, super wet. And I think the way, I would, I attack something like that is just kind of with caution, kind of go out there and, use your warm-up laps as to kind of feel the limit of your car, because there's always a limit, especially on outdoor tracks, how much you can push your car. And so I think, that's what I do is I just go out there, I see what my limit is with how far I can push, how fast I can go, and then I just maintain that pace throughout the race in the qualifiers.
And then, we move over to four-wheel drive, which on a track like that, for me, you were nice. You put a little setup on my four-wheel, put a tune on it. And, I got around the track in four-wheel a little better than I had been the last couple times. The car was feeling good. But going from two-wheel to four-wheel on a track like that, it's a huge difference because that when the track is loose, that's when the four wheel shines.
Yeah, for sure. I think full wheel, I think everyone can agree, especially who's running full wheel, that was a lot of fun to run full wheel on that track. So definitely full wheel shined that weekend, I think, just with the fun factor of it, for sure.
So going with the B74, was there anything you did for that track? Obviously, you club raced this car the very next day. That's why you had the tire change. But anything you did while you were running at Coral Springs to the four-wheel?
I actually did nothing. I pulled it straight off the track from the Super Cup at my track and ran it, and it was dialed from the get-go. I didn't do any chalk setup changes, any toe, anything like that, just right off the track.
So one of the things the guys have been doing recently, I know Spencer, Mayfield, a lot of the guys have been liking the little wider rear wing. We got a 7-inch S-type rear wing. So, you were rocking that here on both vehicles. What's been the difference on going to a little wider rear wing, and why you've been kind of sticking with it?
Yeah, so like you said, those guys have been running it, and we've been running it down here in Florida, I think, quite a lot now. And I think from the standard wing that we would run to the 7-inch, it just provides a lot more stability and a little bit more downforce, a little bit more traction. I think in the high speed stuff too, I feel like that the wing provides the car to kind of finish the corner or keep the rear end planted and doesn't do anything weird as we're mid corner or coming out of the corner on all of our tracks here. So,
and a lot of times guys talk about inserts when we're doing a track like this, but I did a little trimming on my inserts just to make them a little smaller because I wanted to profile the tire a little bit flatter in the rear on my Sprinters. But did you do anything to inserts, or you just rock them and go?
Yeah, I just rocked them and go, glued them up, and put them on the car and went out there. So,
and something we didn't have years ago in these conditions is we never had a pin front tire. Now with the Sprinters, we got the pin front tire, so we've been using those more when we get in these conditions, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, back then we would, you guys would run like the double Ds and the rips, and now we have the option to run the, pin tire in the front, which is our Sprinter, and I think that's kind of our go-to now. Mm-hmm. I think we tried the double Ds at Coral, and we immediately, thought that the Sprinter stuff was better, so that's like our go-to. We go out there, and that's what we start out with.
So a big question we're asked, or people talk about online, the second we post something, it's a photo of a car with dirt on it.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, real dirt racing.
Yeah.
Bring it back. This will be great. So, you have an indoor track. That's your covered track at Setzer's, but, you run on anything. And to kind of aim it at people that are watching or that ask those questions, why don't you think we see more outdoor dirt racing in other areas? And I think people have a little desire to do that, it seems like, but we're not doing it as much as we did maybe 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's just we're evolving. I think the cars are evolving. I think racing's evolving. I think it's just like anything in the world. Stuff has to evolve in order for it to kind of continue. And that's just my perspective on it. I personally don't think we're going to be able to, not that we're going to be able to, but I just don't think we're going to go back to that and race on it all the time. Mm-hmm. Once in a while, yes, but just we're racing has evolved. I mean, we run on carpet. Everything we run on is high bite. It's slicks or it's carpet.
Yeah.
And that's just where we are in racing. So take it for what it is. I mean, that's what we're doing.
And now when someone throws a curveball at you, it's when we go and race outdoors on dirt, that's the curveball now.
Yeah, that's the curveball. And that's not the ordinary anymore.
Yeah.
That's our different. That's something that we run on once in a while now.
But the vehicles are obviously more than capable.
Yes.
We're getting out there, and they do prefer, especially the two-wheel, it does prefer the little higher traction. It becomes a lot better and more fun the more traction you have. But it's capable even on the loose conditions like we encountered in practice and then in the main.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely capable. I mean, I think with all the cars nowadays, especially the two-wheel stuff, I think every car is more than capable of doing it. But it's just how racing is, and we've just evolved. And like you said, the two-wheel especially just loves the high bite stuff now. But with the team associated B6.2, we have so many different tuning options that we can make it work on anything. So that's just super nice to have. Which
obviously was a big thing. Obviously Spencer won the Worlds in Slovakia.
Yep.
Very loose track.
Yeah.
I mean, we've been racing, the whole 2019 we raced slicks indoor tracks. We go to Slovakia. We're racing pin tires as the control tire, and these guys had to really change what they were doing. And were you watching at home and checking that out and be like, man, I think I could do this?
Obviously looking at a screen and actually being there is completely different, right? So to say that, for anyone to say they can go there and do that, I think is not really correct to say, because it's definitely harder than what it looks like, no matter if you run on loose all the time or not. But it definitely, I think, in my, racing down here in Florida where we have a lot of loose tracks, I think it would have felt a little bit comfortable, for someone who races on that. But definitely would not have been, can go there and do it.
Yeah.
It definitely would be difficult to do. But yeah, I Spencer was telling me that it was probably the loosest thing. He said it was like ice.
Yeah.
He said it was very loose to drive, but stuff like that just makes you a better driver, all the way around. And now he's a well-rounded driver that can wheel anything.
So we're kind of prepping today. We're going to go up to the Psycho Nitro Blast. You've been there a couple times. What's your experience of doing that race in the past? And you're going to run something new this weekend. You got the Truggy now. Yep. What's it like running at Psycho? And, what are you kind of hoping for? And then adding the new class?
Yeah, so Psycho is crazy. I mean, it's in the name. The tracks are huge. They're insane. And it's always different. This year especially is going to be really different because we usually run up there in April, and it's a lot colder. And now we're in summer, and it's going to be hot. So the track's going to be totally different. But, I don't expect anything less from the guys, Dave Lycum and the Racetime crew and Bobby Moore building the track. I think it's going to be an insane race, and it's going to be awesome to be at. And obviously the entries are going to be huge. So it's going to be awesome. Running there before, it's hectic, but it's loads of fun. It's a blast to be at and to be at one of those events and see everyone and, race your cars on one of the biggest arenas, in the States.
So Truggy, tell us about putting this new Truggy together.
Yep.
And getting it ready to roll. And I don't think you've raced Truggy before.
Nope.
You've probably driven a couple here and there, but you're going to bust out the big guns now, go with the Truggy class. And I see this working pretty well for you. I think this is going to be a fun thing to drive. But, what's it like building that truck and getting it going for the weekend?
Yeah, it was a blast to build. I mean, everything went together super smooth. And, it just went together extremely well, kind of how it should, cars should go together. So yeah, we're gonna run that this weekend, which is, like you said, nothing I've ever raced before, but I have drove Truggy, and now I have a little bit of nitro experience underneath my belt. It's gonna be a little bit easier to do nitro, where in the past before I was just doing buggy, kind of learning my way through the nitro scene. So definitely ready to run Truggy. I think it's gonna be super fun, especially on these tracks. They just handle the bumps and the ruts and stuff like that. And this year's Truggy class is going to be pretty stacked. So can't wait to get out there and run that thing.
All right, Lee. Well, thanks for joining us here in the JConcepts garage. A little bit of a split episode today, talking a little drag racing, talking a little dirt off-road racing, and then the Psycho Nitro. But thanks for joining us. Be sure to subscribe to us here on YouTube and hit that like button. And let us know that you're interested, and thanks for joining us.